But all right, so we're here with Benoit and David. We had the pleasure of being on site at Zgounder, meeting David in person, and we met Benoit obviously here in Stockholm previously. So getting to know I have been invested for some time now, and it's an excellent story. It was really revealing for us to be on site in Morocco and seeing the jurisdiction. It's a great place to be, a great place to doing business. It's obvious just being there. So if anyone has the chance to go visit, if they would invite you, I highly recommend doing so. But let's just start with the basics here. We're a third way through the year here now on the day, and what's been the key activities? What's been going on the ground at Aya the last 4 months?
Well, thank you for inviting us today. It's always a pleasure to be with you. Look, Aya has been extremely busy in 2024. Of course, there's two elements to our development right now. It's the construction of the Zgounder plant, which has been ongoing now for 16 months, and will be ready in we will start commissioning in June. So we're almost there. There's a month and a half left. So obviously, on the construction front, it's been extremely busy, extremely busy. And as we say, we are on time and on budget. And in our industry, only 2% of the projects get done on time and on budget. We've seen it again recently. In Canada, we just saw a major project just been canceled 10% into the construction because the capex had exploded. So it's really an accomplishment. You see on a monthly basis video of the construction update, and it's very impressive. So on the construction front, look, extremely busy. We've built a power line. Power should be to site, we're told, at the end of May. All the equipment are on site. The construction crews, I think there's 6 crew, are on site erecting steel and completing the tanks and all of that. So that's being done. Piping, electricity, and IT is being done as well. So if you ask the 2024, the first quarter, Q1, and now first month into Q2, it's been extremely busy on that front. And on the exploration front, well, David's with us. He's got a fantastic crew overseeing and executing the program at Zgounder, which is an aggressive program. We want to drill the main zone, and we want to drill the regional play as well. So that is ongoing. It's going actually very well. And the big thing, as you know, was the drilling and at the Boumadine, but also it was the resource calculation at Boumadine. That was the major task for Q1. We said that we would put this out. We did about 10 days ago, and we came out with the first resource update at Boumadine. So that's a major task. The drilling stopped in December of 2023. And we had outside consultants and our inside team, our resource team, plus David, plus the outside consultant work on the model. And we were able to release that Tuesday of last week on our first calculation of the resource on our main permit, which is the permit that was there when we arrived 4 years ago, which was acquired at the main Boumadine permit. And so we've put out a first resource calculation. If you recall, it was on 4 kilometers of a structure that we see through geophysics on 6 kilometers, and we drilled it down to about 400 meters, but we calculated the resource down to 250, and that was it was a very good outcome. We were able to come out with 352 million ounces silver equivalent, or if you look at the metal, it was 62 million ounces of silver and 2.1 million ounces of gold in a very good silver and good market. So this news was extremely well received by the industry, by shareholders. People liked it. We also did a bit of work to see would it be open pit and underground, and we're about like 41-59. 41 open pit, 59 underground. So really, it's a first pass. I mean, all of that is a first pass. The resource is solid. At the open pit, the underground, we'll be working on that quite a bit more. But since then, we haven't stopped drilling. So there's been a lot of drilling ongoing at Boumadine. We want to drill this year. We expect to drill 120,000 meters, and historically we had drilled 94,000. So we're going to more than double up on the drilling on our first permit. But as you also saw, we've been busy acquiring permit, and that we have done over the past 4 months, and we're going to continue that for the rest of the year. Our goal is to control almost every permit in in the district of Boumadine.
Yeah, that's a good recap, Benoit. And I guess, David, you're just super happy to be able to test so many targets now with 145,000 meters. Where have you started? Just to kind of let everyone know, we're a third way through the year. Have you drilled approximately a third of the meters, or is it a bit less? What's it running at?
It's a bit less. We have currently now we came to the full production now. We have 7 rigs. The rigs 5, 6, 7 arrived in end of March. So right now we are at full speed, so we will catch up. But we must be about 20% completed. But we're drilling much faster now than we used to at the beginning of the year. So we're right on target to achieve the 120,000 meters.
And I guess my plan is here, we'll go asset to asset, but just to set the stage, where are the drills currently? Are they all at Boumadine, or do you have one at Zgounder, one at Regional? Or
No. The 7 rigs we're talking about, that's just for Boumadine. At Zgounder, currently, there's 4 drills underground, so drilling Zgounder deep, and we have 2 surface rigs working on the regional. So if you want just for exploration altogether, we have 13 rigs running.
Let's just start with Zgounder. So, Benoit, you said, the build is going to be wrapped up, essentially a 100% completion of the build within 2, 3, 4 weeks. Is that the expectation mid next month?
Mid next month, we will start commissioning step by steps, and we're almost done. That's right. It's like building a house. It's the finishing that takes a bit more time. So now it's piping, electricity, IT. It's got a lot of IT. So that's what we're working on. We'll be able to get the ball mill turning, and the crushing I think is all installed. We're there. We're there. Our goal is to start commissioning in June and get into ramp up in a couple of months, and hopefully be completed that in sometime in Q4. And that's what we expect, and that's what we expected. So we're on time. Few little things have slipped a little bit, but others are faster. So it's like the preparation of the underground mining, that was ahead of schedule. That's great. The electricity is on schedule. And the construction is plus or minus a week or two on schedule. But the other very important aspect is we're on budget, and that is fantastic. We've built a team. We have our construction team. We have our logistic team. I was there last week, and I sat down with them. You know how many containers we brought in from all over the world with pieces of equipment for the construction that we had to get through custom. Everything organized, put on a flatbed, and shipped from Casa or Agadir to site. How many containers we brought up to site? 4,500 containers. So it's that's where, if you don't have a good team, that's where one container stays in custom because there was a poorly completed bill of lading. Then you're out of this thing and you can't do the next thing because it's stuck in custom. And then they start charging you warehousing fees, and then you go in a spiral. 4,500 containers, not one hiccup, not one. So it's and that's the reason is at the end we're there. And what I say about the construction team and the logistic, we could say the same thing about David. You know how it is to have 13 rigs turn 24/7, how many saws you need, how many people you need, how many logging you need. I mean, this is what Aya is all about, is execution. It's like classical music. Everyone must play their part, otherwise it doesn't work.
And
So
you're the composer, Benoit.
yeah, that's right. So
So,
you got to make sure everybody plays at the right time. So yeah, construction is going extremely well. It's very well built. People will see that it's a top quality plant. Again, you recall the budget is $114 million. We looked at how much it would cost in Europe, in North America. Forget Brazil in the jungle, but in Europe or North America, this would be a $400 million job.
yeah. So I mean, the range of outcome. Obviously, you're guiding now to kind of be fully ramped up sometime in Q4. Do you see a range? I mean, it's difficult to predict with commissioning and ramping up and so on how long it will take. But do you see a range of outcomes there, or are you quite sure it's going to be a tight interval within Q4?
Yeah, no, it's within Q4 definitely. You know how it is. You got like it's like a Swiss watch. You got the crushing that goes to milling, that goes to leaching. There's 6 leaching tanks. Then it goes through the CCD or the thickeners. There's 7 of those, and then there's the regrind. So all of that's got to work like a Swiss watch. So I don't know how many pumps we have there. It must be like over 100 pumps. So it just needs adjustment, and one is too fast, the other one is blocked up. So commissioning can be a month, and then ramp up can be 2 months, 3 months. But I'm not saying we're going there, but some plants take years to ramp up, years.
Yeah.
So we don't expect that because it's kind of a standard plant, and we have people with great expertise in plant startup. So we don't expect that. But that's why when we gave the guidance, some people thought, we thought people think plant is ready, commissioning 1 week, ramp up 1 week, you're up and running. Well, maybe, but it's that's not the case. It's so we were conservative, and we want to stay conservative. But the way it's built, the work's been done at the forefront, I think commissioning and ramp up should be pretty smooth.
And then I want to ask as well, just the EBRD ESG milestones that remains for this year. Can you outline what they are and how you're tracking?
Well, actually, they were on site 3 weeks ago for the last drawdown. So, we're tracking very well. We're exactly where we were supposed to be. They have already given us 85 million out of 100. And the only, in order for us to get the access to this money, it's because we meet the KPIs on the loan. So they were there. They went through, all the key points that they're looking at, which is, of course, construction completion, but water management, tailings management, health and safety. They go through every aspect of their KPIs, and we got the green light to ask for the last 15 million. We won't ask for it right now because the standby fee is like 1.5%, whereas if you draw down, it's 9%. And we currently have over 100 million in the bank. So there's no need to draw down. It's there. We will take it down just so that we close kind of this file. But right now we don't need it. So there's no point in asking for this money. But yeah, we've met all the requirements. We already had a first rate reduction, which is based on the climate change loan. And we expect to continue. I read yesterday the ESG report, which will be ready in a couple of weeks. I read it for a first pass yesterday. It's beautiful. It will be a centerpiece of our communication for 2024, and it's just about ready.
Yeah, and so you have about 100 million US in cash. You raised some money recently, as people should be aware of. You're in a strong financial position in terms of being able to potentially, you have a big drill program, but if you hit something extremely interesting, it wouldn't force you to reshuffle. You could expand. That's fair to say, right?
Well, David and I have been working 15 years together. He knows I have no limit to exploration when it pays off. It's like it is the best investment you can do. It is the only real value creation investment. It's great to go into production. It's absolutely great. It's great to start generating cash flow because you stop dilution, because you stop issuing shares. But producing does not create value, actually reduces value because you're eating up your resource base. The only way to increase your value, and why have we increased IS values? Because we took our ounces per shares from 0.16 to now 3.5 ounces, silver ounces per share. So when David comes to us and to me and to the team and says, here's what I see, this is what I'd like to do this or that, we do it in sequence. There's budgeting, but there's really no limit. If Boumadine is what we believe it is, look, there'll be, the limiting factor is the execution, and that's, we don't push David on that. David, whatever you can execute the way you want to execute it, this is the limiting factor. After that, so just on the money side, so it's clear, we have round number 125 million in the bank, and we have 15 million left on our EBRD facility. So that's a total cash available of 140. We probably have about 45 left, plus or minus, to pay on the construction. So that brings us down to 95. Of that 95, there's 2 years of work on Boumadine, which is 50 million, which has been earmarked for that in the prospectus on the financing. And the reason we raised that money on February 7th was because we wanted to earmark 50 million US to Boumadine, which it is. So that leaves us with 45 unallocated, and Zgounder is cash flow positive. So technically, we and for the end of the year, Zgounder will pay for its own exploration. It pays for all the capex, and we're not limited. Cash is not the reason why we would not do more drilling or more exploration at Boumadine or Zgounder. By the way, I mean, it's really not, the limiting factor.
And then obviously, just to remind everyone, I mean, next year you expect to produce, let's say, high 6 million up towards mid 8 million ounces of silver at Zgounder. And just to give everyone a quick reminder, let's say we have a $25 silver average for next year. What will be the cash margin per ounce?
Well,
and then we can make a simple calculation.
Yeah, if we're at 25, let's say AISC all in 10, so that's $15 per ounce of EBITDA, and $15. Let's multiply by 7. It's easy. It's 105 million USD of operating cash flow. You take out of that the debt repayment and the interest, so that's a 35 million. 10 million of interest, simple numbers, and 25 million of debt repayment. If we want to, we can pay over 4 more years, and that leaves us with 75 million of free cash flow to do what we want.
Put it this way, it would require a very extraordinary scenario for you to return to the capital markets.
Yeah,
that's like
my hope is that David asks for the 75 million and we give it to him. That means we have very good news.
And David only asks when it's appropriate. We've seen that so far, so that's good. But let's talk about the big thing, right? But this is very interesting. You found silver in the rhyolite at Zgounder. David, could you explain what that means? Because that's something that to my understanding, we didn't expect previously. And now that's out there. And how does that change the view on the geology and how you're thinking?
It was unexpected in the sense that nobody believed the rhyolite was mineralized. They were simply not sampling it. So that's one of the things we did when we took over. Is said, no, we sample everything, and surprise, surprise, we have mineralization in the rhyolite now. Right now, the best theory would be that it's associated with flat faults inside the rhyolite. We do believe that the rhyolite served as a conduct to the silver mineralization, and it needed interaction with the carbon in the sediments to precipitate the silver. So in those flat faults that most likely served as conduct, we just now need to know what's the extent of mineralized silver we can find in the rhyolite. Will it be 50 meter? Will it be 100 meter? Will it be more? This remains to be known. And for that, we will relog, resample all the historical rhyolite that were drilled at Zgounder. So that's ongoing. We must have 70 to 80% of the old rhyolites core that has been resampled. We're waiting for results. And we will also closely analyze and channel the underground development that has been done in rhyolite. So this could open some areas for mineralization that were previously thought to be barren. So right now we have an upside going all the way down to the granite. We still have upsides to the east because we had some very pleasant surprise in the open pit. Towards the west, there's still a little bit to gain coming closer to the main fault. And now we also have the rhyolite, which can be mineralized that present an upside, besides our nice regional targets, near mine targets like the south or the Zgounder far east. So it's very positive, and it's a welcome news at Zgounder.
And with the 15,000 meters just local to Zgounder, not regional, is that sufficient, you think, to kind of get a sense of the potential for the rhyolite mineralization, the pit extension to the west as well?
Let's start with resampling all the historical ones. So that's basically free drilling. It's already drilled, so we just need to assay it. And if we see potential or continuity, Benoit just said money is not the issue. So if we can quickly, by drilling few holes in the rhyolite at the proper places, increase the resource, it will become a no-brainer both for exploration and the management of Aya. We have the drill grills mobilized. We have the team there. That's not a big deal to add 5,000, 10,000 meters of drilling if needed at Zgounder.
And David, I mean, this is kind of a question that's obviously very tough to, but nevertheless, what's the range of outcomes? Because you have the range of outcomes of mineralization, essentially. We can at least attempt to talk about that, although it's very uncertain. But
it's hard to tell. We know there are some very high grades, like the intersect that we got in the rhyolite was 13 meter at 1,000 grams silver. So we know the grade is there. We know the thickness can be there, but we need to see the extent. Will it be 20 meter? Will it be 100 meter? Will it be 200 meter? That makes a huge difference. So the ballpark is a bit too wide to put a finger on a number.
But I mean, from an underground point of view, it can be a game changer with the rhyolite. Like in terms of mineral inventory, it can significantly. Like we're talking, I don't know if it would be 50, 100 meters. Is it across the entire extent of the deposit? Or
that also needs to be seen, and that's why the first step is to go and resample everything that was not sampled earlier in the rhyolite, and we'll see from there. But it's for sure a breath of fresh air and something totally new and exciting for Zgounder. It can have some significant impact both on the resource and also to annoy a little bit the engineer that might need to change some of their plans.
Yes. When do you expect to have that completed and potentially press released?
The sampling, the resampling should be done maybe in late May, beginning of June, because we are still currently drilling. So we need to process both of them, give a few weeks for results. So already starting in June, we should start seeing some results coming from the historical rhyolite samples.
And then just to kind of to crystallize a point for myself, I mean, with the rhyolite so far, it's the mineralization. It's not a main. It cannot be a main corridor for the silver, but the silver seems to bleed into the rhyolite at a certain extent. So between the contacts, you won't expect to find something, or what's the actual interpretation?
Well, what we know so far is that the rhyolite is inside a fault that serves as a plumbing for silver mineralization. So the mineralized fluids come through the rhyolite inside faults and breccia, and they carry silver. And as soon as they touch the sediments, there's carbons that mix with the fluids, changing the pressure and temperature, and then depositing the silver. Now we see that we have mineralization as well inside the rhyolite. but it's too early to see. Is that a remobilization of the silver? Is it part of the same fluids that mineralized Zgounder? Is it another episodes of mineralization? That's way too early to know. So the real implication will first look at where do we have the mineralization with all the resampling we've done. What's the extent? We'll make few thin sections. We'll do some tests on it, and we will figure out the answer to all the question. So it's a door that it's opening, but we don't know yet what's in the room behind it.
And with the extension of the open pit, how is that proceeding? I mean, could you give me a sense? We were talking about this already, like slightly end of last year. But how's that proceeding? How many meters have you drilled? How many holes? Is it continuing to be open as you step out incrementally?
No, it's just that in the open pit, we had some pleasant surprise of zone that were not really modeled yet, because we see it in 3 dimension. It's just that we were forced, in bracket, to add some more drilling towards the eastern extension of the Zgounder deposit. That is almost all drilled now, so we just need the results and modelization.
Okay. And this is an interesting piece because, I mean, the Rhyolite, to my understanding, being on site and speaking with a few of your guys there, it seems like mining is not the constraint for, I mean, you're not on the quest for regional because you're forced to, I mean, the only reason you would be forced to is because the mineral inventory at Zgounder would be a bit too low currently to support an expansion, as we've spoken about earlier, 1,000 ton per day expansion. But if the Rhyolite theme plays out, to my understanding, you could increase underground mining to support the expansion locally just at Zgounder. Is that the correct interpretation, or is that...
Well, it depends on the amount for sure, but it's also one of the reasons why we favor those, you would call them proximal targets, like the Rhyolite, like the southern contact, the far east. Anything that is proximal to Zgounder, also being some grassroots exploration, they can go quick and they're very close to the mining installation. So they could deliver a quick upgrade to the Zgounder project.
And maybe Benoit, if we tack on to that, and also for you, David, but when do you think you would like to try to slot in a resource update at Zgounder? Will you wait with that until after you've clarified these ideas? It makes sense from my point of view, at least.
Of course. And just maybe to add to one point on your previous question, the limiting factor at Zgounder main zone is traffic jam. So, even if the Rhyolite is mineralized, which it's what we saw. I mean, it's very encouraging. That doesn't cure the traffic jam. So that's why a satellite pit to the south, to the east is very important as well, because that would bring in more ore without being in the traffic jam. Because you've been to site, you know how it is. It's very compact. So the main zone is 1.4 kilometer long, but it's super compact. And to drive up to the plant, it's a nice road, but the number of trucks there are limited. So the satellite pit is extremely important. The Rhyolite is very, very important because it's going to increase the mineral inventory. It will, as David said, it may change the development because we just built a whole new gallery in the Rhyolite. So maybe we have to sample that rock because there was a lot of it that we pulled out. And but that being said, it's without comparison, but it's the same thing at Imiter. I was talking to the head geo of Managem, and they went from Imiter 50 years underground, and now they realize that the envelope is mineralized, so they're going at it now open pit because they've lowered the grade, but they're taking all the material. So I'm not saying it's the same, and we're not there, but it's. Those systems seem to be very well mineralized, very, very well. So we just need to spend the time and see. But as soon as we have enough ore to be comfortable in increasing the throughput at the mine, we will do it. It is a 9-month program where we add a ball mill and 2 tanks. It's not complicated. It's a very low capex. And it would bring the plant capacity to the new plant from 2,000 to 3,000. But we're not there yet because the traffic jam is real, and we need to have a satellite pit somewhere outside of, not far, but not coming from the same structure. That just could not work.
Okay, I mean, could there be an incremental increase, or could there be no increase? I mean, is the hard constraint at 2,500, 2,600 tons per day split between open pit and underground, or could there be an incremental increase?
Oh
Or is
no,
it,
we look. The open pit is 1,000. That's what it is right now. It's 1,000, unless the
yeah,
open pit gets, because we're not going to go deeper, because deeper you go into the underground mine. So the open
yeah,
pit is limited by the depth of when it meets. You have to leave one pillar and that's it, and then after that you're underground. So it's the open pit cannot grow more than 1,000 ton per day. The underground will be at 1,700 ton per day. So that's that mine. But if we have another pit, as David said, southeast, somewhere else, a kilometer, 2 kilometers away, then you start with fresh limiting factors. You're not limited by anything.
that's true. That's true. But could access be kind of augmented if the Rhyolite merits it? I mean, let's say the Rhyolite is kind of the maxed out scenario. It's not an impossibility. Could you re-engineer?
You could. You have to look at, the engineers would have to look at it and then decide how they're going to attack it. Are they going to come from the other side? Maybe, depend on the thickness and all of that. I mean, once that's discovered, you will, pass this over to the engineering team and the mining team, and they will decide. But that is a more complex scenario than a satellite pit a kilometer south where you just dive in and you do it.
Yeah, so let's talk about that. I mean, we spoke about the southern Rhyolite contact mirror image kind of hypothesis, and then also the east of the Grand Porphyry, both these two. What information do you have there now? What's the status of testing those targets? When do you expect to kind of falsify or verify them? And
currently, the southern contact drill program is ongoing. We don't have the results yet, but we have some pleasant surprise, as we believed before that the rocks were a bit more conglomeratic. We were not afraid of that because at Imita they also have mineralization in conglomerates. But to our surprise, it's actually the exact same type of laminated sediment, so sandstone, siltstone, as we see in the brown series at Zgounder. So it's the same conduct, same piping, same alteration, same rock. So we just hope that we will have similar silver values as well, and that the sampling will tell us. But it's a nice surprise, and we're confident so far that we can put a finger on something significant.
Okay, and to the east.
To the east, we did hit a little bit of volcano sediments, but not as much as we expected. So this one still needs a little bit of thinking and reevaluation. So far, we'll see how the results come, but it's not as obvious as was believed. So it's a plus for the south, a minus for the east. But again, without the results, it's hard to tell. Beforehand, the rhyolite was barren. We always have to keep in mind that as long as it's not sampled and assays results received, geology is always pleasant, that it gives some nice surprise. So that's still ongoing.
Okay, so to the south, crystallized. Some assays you're waiting for currently. When are they expected approximately? And have you wrapped the drilling there for now?
No, the drilling is still
waiting.
The drilling is still ongoing. We must have another 10 holes to drill there. So again, towards the end of May, mid of June, hopefully we start seeing results coming back.
Okay. And then we should speak about Tirst as well. When is that expected to slot into the exploration work?
We've completed the stream sediments in Q4, so we got the results early Q1. We did a preliminary mapping. We will have to go do back some mapping to follow up on eventually the stream sediments anomalies. That's one thing. We just got also the results from the hyperspectral survey, the high resolution hyperspectral. So we will analyze that. And the geophysics is ongoing. There's about 60% of the Tirzit block completed. So we should have the results probably towards end of June, beginning of July, with 3D inversion and everything. So this could be drill ready if nice targets comes out of it towards the end of the year, September, October, earliest.
Okay, I think that covers Zgounder quite well. Now, I'm very much looking forward to hearing in the next couple of months here how this plays out, because I think it's maybe people haven't paid enough attention to it. I think maybe because it can be a super big deal for the company, right? But Boumadine. So let's go over to Boumadine. For me, the big surprise was how large the open pit resource was. Almost 2 million ounces of gold indicated and inferred in the open pit at like 6 grams per ton average, or 5.5. What kind of strip ratio will you expect for that pit as it stands currently? Obviously, you would infill more before.
Well, it's way too early to know the pit ratio. It's inferred resource, so we need to keep that in mind. We are at one point we'll be doing some infill drilling. We'll be doing some reserves. At that point, we will know a bit more what we have, and we will have more confidence in the resource, and we will be able to optimize the pit, optimize the NSR, optimize the pit slopes, make a trade-off between what's more economic to take it from underground, at what depth, how deep can we go with the pit and still be reasonable for both the mining and the cost. All that trade-off study will need to come at the reserves or PEA stage.
Okay, so I mean, you're doing 120,000 meters now. That's what's currently
but that's exploration.
That's exploration, right? But 60,000 is infill. 60,
no, 60,000. So 50% of the program this year will be allocated to the main trend.
Right.
But
so
big part
of
it is to extend the strike length of the main trend towards the north, towards the south. So we're confident we can gain maybe 1.5 kilometers towards the north, reaching the border of our permit, 1.5 kilometers to the south. And there's a little bit of infill that will go in places where we add too wide drill spacing, that there's some gap in the resource. And some of the holes will also go test at depth as well. So yes, it will increase the resource, but it's not what I would call an infill in order to bring indicated towards the end of the year. The idea this year with 50% on the main trend and 50% on other target, it's to have an idea how big Boumadine is. We've got an elephant, we've got something big, but as the understanding now is that it's one elephant part of a herd. That's a mining camp in the making. That's a generational assets, if you want. So there might be some other Boumadine. There's the North 30, the North 70 structures that needs to be drilled this year. There's all the western margin of the magnetic low that we want to test as well. And we will generate lots of targets in the new permits that we just acquired, especially seeing the preliminary results of the geophysics. We just can't wait to have the 3D full inversion of this survey to be able to come up with some more drill targets significant. So we do believe that we can have 2 or 3 other Boumadine structure similar to the one we have on the regional scale.
Right. So, I mean, you're optimizing for full picture understanding.
Exactly. So Benoit likes to tell everyone that, yeah, we started the PE study. So out of all the chapters, we can do all of them besides one, the mining. What size of a mill are we building? Are we talking about a 5,000 tons per day mine, a 10,000 ton, a 20,000 tons per day? We don't know yet. So we need the full picture of how big the beast or the herd is before we can answer this critical question of a PEA or a feasibility study.
Okay, so I'll get back and ask some more questions about this to follow up. But Benoit, if you just comment on the PEA, because previously we kind of had thought that, yes, we would release a PEA in July or August or something like this. How are you thinking about slotting in actual studies? Do you just disregard that for now? Is that the change? Or
Well, Boumadine, the strategy and the story has changed totally. Historically, we had that one permit, and that one permit which we see here. So that's the one where you have the white lines. That was the story. When we met and we discussed 6 months ago, we had that was the story. That was what David's drawing right now. That line, that was the story. And then David sent the troops around to walk the ground, because in Morocco, the beauty of the exploration of Morocco is they've never walked the ground. So we started walking the ground 40 kilometers by 40 kilometers to realize that this structure that we had repeats itself to the west. Now you see it repeats itself to the east. It repeats itself to the south. And so our people came back to the team and said, well, that rock, we found it on this permit, this permit, this permit, this permit. So what do you think we did? We said, okay, we don't put out the resource update right now. Let's take 8 weeks, 6 weeks. Let's go and negotiate with all the landowners and everybody around us that we buy the exploration rights, or that we acquired from either the government, because some of the ground was free. And so the story of 6 months ago is not the story anymore. And that is the beauty of mining. If you are open-minded enough to be able to follow that, is you can go from one story and it moves very, very quickly. So now Boumadine is not a display. It's not what you're seeing in color. It's all the other permits as well, because that main structure that you see there repeats itself. So absolutely, the PEA, we said we can do every chapter but one. We can do the environmental impact, the baseline study, the social studies. We can do the water management studies. We can do the tailings. We can look at the power, which is not too far. We can do that. And all of this, we even started trying to find an area where we could put the tailings dam. And that's always the joke. We gave David 5 areas where we could put the tailings dam, and he's already killed 3 of them because he found mineralization underneath where we wanted to put it. So we're it's a process, but it's not relevant, because the value creation is coming in the next 24 months, where if that structure that you see now, that in yellow, which is in our main permit, which by the way is a mining permit, so we could start right now, well, it repeats itself to the west like this, and it looks even bigger than the one we've been drilling. And the one we've been drilling, just on a numbers basis, we've drilled on 4.2 kilometer, and it gave us 4.1 million ounces of gold equivalent. So it's 1 million ounces per kilometer. So it's, when you look at all this structure, and that's the structure, it's very, very compelling. So yes, the feasibility, the PEA is ongoing, but at the right pace, because it is a function of the size. And right now we don't have that size. We don't know that size. It's probably a lot bigger than what we, it is not probably, it is a lot bigger than what we told you 6 months ago.
Yeah, I mean, this is obviously tremendous, right? But in kind of in absolute terms, but I mean, how are you thinking about this conceptually? Because you could just continue drilling and defining tremendous. Yes, you're just adding hundreds and hundreds of millions of ounces. You can continue for years in doing this, and then it can become kind of a undeniable takeout target. But at some point, there's a limit to where IA could realistically paint up a development scenario. Maybe you could pull off a 2 billion capex, like a mega project. But where is the limit as you see it conceptually for IA standalone?
So
for Boumadine?
You're right. So there are many limiting factors. The power is a limiting factor. The water is a limiting factor. Our debt capacity is a limiting factor. So we have to find the right size. and decide if that's fine. Because once you're up and running and you're generating, and this will be like a multiple of what Zgounder is. This is going to be producing 4 or 5 times more metal than Zgounder. You can do it in steps. David and I built a mine in Burkina, and we did it in 4 steps. Like, we kept increasing based on how many ounces you have. So, once you're at a 30-year mine life, you can start thinking of another steps and grow and bring your mine life back down to 20. And if you bring it back up to 30, you manage that. So, but it is a tier 1 asset, which Morocco had not yet seen. So it's an extremely important asset. And our industry doesn't see those every year. Like, they're very rare to come around. And so we will take the next 18 months to 2 years to drill while we're advancing the PEA. We'll also make a process selection, a mine size selection, and then we're gonna see. We got a couple of targets that may make this target irrelevant. Well, if that's the case, then how are we going to approach this? So, look, it's a very, very unique asset.
Yeah. I mean, the question that you might ask yourselves already, but cannot potentially say, is that which trend is the main trend, right? You're referring to this as the main trend, but well,
for now.
Yeah, for now.
For now, yeah. So
it's the main trend of the baby elephant.
Yeah. We have to touch upon this. You haven't released this publicly yet, but investors who pay attention know that you were waiting for and looking forward to getting back the more extensive geophysics work, deeper and also more widespread. What kind of, could you at least let me know what kind of targets that have generated for you? We spoke about porphyry targets conceptually. Looking at the coloring of some of the holes to the south of the main trend, it looks like that might be testing.
It's preliminary. It's preliminary. We don't have the 3D inversion. They are working on it. The survey we've done basically over the whole regional area as well. And we liked the results so much that we decided to increase the geophysics. So we are completing Tsirzit. After Tsirzit is completed, we'll come and drill, not drill, but do the geophysics, the airborne geophysics for the extension of the grid. What we can see is some targets that are very similar or bigger than Boumadine, so most likely same type of mineralization. There's lots of significant North 30 structures that pops out clearly. And we start seeing appearing also some very strong east-west anomalies that could be related to more typical VMS style mineralization, but VMS that comes all the way to the surface and not just mix in some volcanic faults like Boumadine. So that's something. And of course, the choice of the technique, we took mobile empty, which is magnetotelluric. The reason behind was that it will allow us to have the conductivity down to 1 kilometer and the resistivity down to 2 kilometer. So we do believe that the regional geology at Boumadine and the alteration type and the mineralization type, the mineralogy we have, everything points towards a potential porphyry style mineralization as well as some low sulfidation epithermal. And we want to give ourselves the best tool to try to locate and drill them. So the geophysics is there, the hyperspectral is there, the geochemistry is there. We're bringing also some porphyry type expert on site. So we are taking all the steps to vector towards porphyry type targets, and we'll see what there is. But already, as Benoit mentioned, and we mentioned already, to repeat Boumadine 3 times, extend it, double the size of Boumadine, and find 2 other Boumadine. It's not too bad for a resource. You can do the maths.
Yes. I guess just to remind everyone, the geophysics has been very effective at the Boumadine main
Yes.
trend. That's how you've been able to
It's
hit it
massive
super
sulfide.
successfully.
It's massive
Yeah.
sulfide. So conductivity or resistivity wise, it will create an anomaly. So either a very low resistive anomaly in the surrounding or a very high conductive chargeable unit. So it does pop up like a Christmas tree in a dark room. You can't ask for a better geophysics signal than massive sulfides. We're talking about 80% pyrite in the Boumadine main trend. So it does respond to geophysics very, very nicely. So yeah, we are waiting for the 3D inversion. We know that with the previous survey, it was working very well. And what we see so far from the preliminary data, it does work pretty well. And we also reflew the survey over Boumadine, not just the region we didn't cover. We also reflown Boumadine to see the answer down to 2 kilometers as well. So this will bring so many targets. Already does. Imagine once we have the 3D full inversion of it.
Gorm, if you allow me, I have a comment on that. Is the geophysics doesn't always work in mining and in geology, but here the hit ratio on our drilling program, the 94,000. We drilled 94,000 meters, and that gave us in gold equivalent 4.1 million ounces. Well, because we're not chasing a snake, it's a piece of concrete that's got high density, high pyrite, is mineralized. You compare that to other projects, they have to drill 1 million meters, over 1 million meters, to come up with 5 or 6 or 7 million ounces. We've drilled 94, and David is looking at adding 60 to that. The 120 is some will be regional, but 60 to that, and we could increase significantly the ounces that we have in the ground right now. So the hit ratio, because of the geophysics, is extremely high. Now that's why we're so excited with the regional geophysics, because if that one allowed us to see the structure that you're seeing right now, well, the readout on all these other structures statistically is some are going to be mineralized. So and that's why it's so compelling to have the regional geophysics and knowing that it does work in this environment. And that's again very rare. We're lucky because it's never been touched. We're lucky because the permits are available, and we have this brand new technology which is can see 1 kilometer underground for, I think, David, resistivity is 1 kilometer.
Conductivity. Resistivity should be close to 2 kilometers.
So you can imagine that we're going to see what is there on a regional basis. So when we say it's a herd of elephant, it's really what we believe.
Okay, and if I may ask, do you plan to releasing when the 3D inversion is done and you've potentially drilled some holes into one of these parallel trends and confirm mineralization? Do you then plan to make the revelation and say, okay, look, guys, this is what's now we're talking about it, but do you mean to do that?
Oh yes. Well, what we are going to do is we first of all will acquire all the permits, because that's the most important thing. Is what you see now is what we own. So you see, we already have a very good position, but we got to fill in everything that you see on this kind of darker square. We want to own as much as possible there, because we think that this is the district that carries the mineralization. So we're in the process of talking to another probably 20 permit holders. Some it's very easy, others it's more difficult because they don't live in the country, they live in Europe, they live somewhere else. It's a family situation, and it takes time. And in Morocco, there's no regional map of who is what and who owns what. I mean, you have to do your own digging, so it takes time. But we've already acquired, I would say, about 12 permits. We're 13, in discussion. Yeah. 13 now, David? 13.
Yeah.
So there. And we're in discussion on another minimum 10 and another 10 that we've tried to, to talk to the people. So at the end of the day, we're fully funded. Where the exploration is unbelievable. Once we have covered all the permits where we believe we need to be covered, we will share and the geophysics. We will share the inversion. I will go on the road and I will meet our shareholders because this is, I think, it's as Rick Rule calls this. This is generation wealth. You know, the kind of wealth that Aya will create is going to go down one or two levels. One or your children and your grandchildren. So it's that kind of a project that can create this kind of wealth. Plus, you've got the metal market as well that I'm sure is going to be with us. So this is a very large district. The black square is about like 40 by 40 plus or minus, and it's 40 kilometers by 40 kilometers. So it's a very large district. But the most important thing is we know that the structures they repeat themselves.
So if we just zoom in on the main permit, all of the in the slide deck you've colored out the holes for the drill program. How many meters are located or dedicated to this permit, and have you actually dedicated any meters to the other permits?
For now, all the 120,000 meters program is budgeted and targeted for the Boumadine mining license. I'll explain why. Is I don't like to ask for blank check, so I wanted to have a full plan of what we were targeting and aiming to bring to the management and the board at the end of the year. So we've got 50% of it that will cover the northern extension of the resource. Oh, sorry.
And to remind everyone, the pit is approximately. Can you paint out where the pit is as well?
Yeah, the pit will be something like that here. And there's a smaller one here. And the third one here. So we will keep on extending the resource towards the north, towards the south as well with this drilling. So we'll extend the main trend. We will also target the east-west and the north-70 structures with some drilling. We'll focus also on Tizi, where we have some very nice results so far. So we believe that we can extend the structure. Right now, there's a tiny bit of resource located here, but we're confident we can extend it. We will keep on drilling the northwest structure that we discover on surface next year. Already we see that it continues on this license that we acquired. We're going to come and test all the western margin of this low mag anomalies. Low mag anomalies is the corridor where lots of fluid came by to alter the rock, demagnetize the rock. So Boumadine sits at one edge of it, so we'll test the other edge. We have some nice massive sulfide targets almost east-west south here that we want to test, and again some other structures like that we want to test. And of course, as the geophysics results are coming in, as the mapping progress, because right now we're completing the mapping on all the new licenses, so we'll have the mapping, the geochemistry, the hyperspectral, and the geophysics. So we will generate a target outside of the mining license. And then it will be a question of prioritization. Do we take from the 120,000 meters that we already have allocated? Do we ask for a budget extension? We will prioritize. It will depend on results. It will depend on the quality of target, and we'll be proactive. And an exploration plan needs to go along with what you find on the way.
Okay, when do you expect to be able to have a kind of a decision point for at least some of the more adjacent licenses to see if you want to reallocate or extend?
We'll see. Let's first wait to have the full inversion geophysics. Let's complete the mapping. So most likely in August we'll have a much better idea, and we'll see from there.
And so far, just the main license. Which targets have you drilled, or where have you've done 20%? You said so. 25,000 meters has been drilled.
Yeah,
and
so
not been released yet.
we were quite active towards the north. This part is almost done as we speak. We have 2 rigs running along Tizi. Now we have some rigs starting to drill the north 30 and the north 70 structures. So we have two rigs on the north, 2 rigs on Tizi, 2 rigs over there. And once we're completed with that, we'll attack the southern extension.
Okay, and you must have received at least half of the assays of this drilling at this point, right? So, or potentially even more, like 15,000 meters of assays has not been released so far.
No, because we did release some results back in March, if I remember correctly. The last time we updated the Boumadine results. That was mostly the results from last year drilling. But yeah, I am working on results update on Boumadine in the coming weeks.
Okay. And then the Western contact there.
Yeah, that will be later.
Is that
towards
also
the
back
year.
up here?
Yeah, that we didn't start drilling yet. 120,000 meters is a lot, and you want to make it with the simpler logistic possible. So having all the drill rigs in one area makes it way easier for the water, for the core boxes, for the fuel, for et cetera, et cetera. So in order to optimize your meterage, you have to do it by sequence as well.
And then, David, if I may ask, I mean,
Yeah.
which of the other trends so far do you think looks most promising if you zoom out, compared to the main trend? I mean, obviously you don't have 3D inversion yet, but
No, we don't. But this northwest structures that we announced last year that keeps on going on this license is a very nice target. The potential repetition of Boumadine right here is very, very exciting, and that's nearby. The rest towards the east, we also see some very nice things, and also on our southern. I'll skip that here. On our, whoops. Here you go. On our southern license here, we also start picking some nice alteration. Same thing here. So basically every license where we go walk in the field, we find some very nice structures. We did find some mineralization on surface here. We did found some this week, actually. I canceled my meeting with my senior geologist because of you, but as soon as the interview is done, I will sit with him to see his results. But he's basically talking about some very nice rocks over there. There's some amazing alteration over there. Everywhere. You walk on the ground at Boumadine, it's a huge system. There's lots of fluids. It was a very active sector it's a mining camp in the making.
Yeah, it's like it must be extremely exciting for a geologist to have all of these styles of mineralization being so endowed. But I mean, the parallel trends.
All the geological team at Boumadine, they start now to realize how lucky they are, how lucky we all are to be working on such a project. And there's a pride that builds in the team that they are in the verge of building something very significant, not just for Morocco, but for mining in general.
Yeah. And I wanted to ask, I mean, with the geophysics, what are the main things that are pointing you to be able to say that, okay, this trend might be even bigger than the existing Boumadine main trend where you have it drilled? Is it a thickness question, or is it a...
No, it's massive sulfides are highly conductive.
Yeah.
So
you can see the actual...
It just blinks like insane. It's a huge answer. And to give you an example, Tizi is a... Whoops, I'm trying to zoom in now. Tizi is a structure here, I will draw it, that basically on the geophysics, if we just see the whole picture, we don't see that much. And the reason why Boumadine anomaly is so strong. It's like having a spotlight over a smaller light. So because of Boumadine is so bright, you don't see it anymore. It's just hidden in full daylight. But once you change the resolution and you do all your best to reduce Boumadine to nothing in the background, you start seeing this beautiful geophysical anomaly that would be amazing on any other survey around the planet. People would say, wow, that's a nice geophysical anomaly. But because you have such a spotlight just besides you, you don't see it. So that's what the 3D inversion will help us doing. Picking some other mineralized bodies that are just there, but they're hard to see if we just go conventional.
So the geophysics, it's not just that it showcases, okay, you have something there, but it's so accurate to a point where you're actually able to qualify the targets with, I mean, we think this is going to be this thick, and it's that accurate, really.
No, it's still geophysics, so it's not that accurate. I would not do a resource calculation based on a geophysical
No, it's not. You don't get the grade.
But for example, we were able to modelize this anomaly, low resistivity anomaly, and that's where we did the drilling, and every single section hit the mineralization. So it gives us a corridor of maybe 80 meter in thickness, in which you can find the block model fits quite well with the modelized. So we'll go to the modelized. Here you go. So that's the resource as compared with the geophysic anomaly. So of course I will not calculate the volume of the geophysical anomaly, but it makes some extraordinary drill targets for massive sulfides.
Yeah. I mean, but if you just take a step back, Benoit, if you say 2 years here, I mean, let's say you ramp up even further next year, you do even more meters at that point. If you follow the current trajectory in terms of adding ounces per meters allocated, something similar to now, I mean, you'll have a north of a 10 million ounce deposit, or even more than that, gold equivalent. And at that point, it's like, okay, it's undeniably, and you will have the geophysics to support it, so you can actually very clearly say, yeah, this is looking like it's going to be a 20, that might be the case, right? 20, I mean, truly like an exceptional world-class thing. Do you want to, is 2 year kind of a firm commitment to move into development after that, or get to a point where you position yourself to start building and start maybe striking deals and so on?
Well, I don't think it's that small, but that's your opinion. But we're going to keep working on it. And but yeah, no. Look, at the end, the main zone can be twice the size that it is right now, maybe. And we know there's a parallel zone. Again, value creation is finding ounces. Once we make the decision, the Lassonde curve, the day we announce that we have a capex and we're funding this and we're starting to build, it's not value. It doesn't create value. So we're in no rush to do that. We have a little ATM that's going to make 100 million a year for the next foreseeable future. So. Yes. We have a little one. And I say a little one. Everybody would love to have that in their company, but we have Zgounder that has got tremendous potential, where we own 400 square kilometers around the granite, and where we believe the mineralization is. That's going to create cash flow, while we're developing maybe one of the best discovery of the last 20 years or the coming 20 years. So why, there's no rush for us to say, production is because as long as we keep drilling and we keep adding ounces, some of these permits that we have are mining permits. So it's not a question of waiting for a permit. We have it. Look, by the end of next year, so 2025, we will have done over 50,000 meters of drilling. we'll know if it's a 10 or 15 or 20 million ounce gold equivalent project or a billion ounces of silver, because we're a silver company. But that is a gold silver project. And yeah, we will decide if what we build, what we do, and this could be if you put that in gold, a 200,000-300,000 ounce producer per year. Those are extremely rare. They're extremely rare. So we will decide. But really, right now, because of what we're finding, and you will see, and you'll understand when you see the geophysics and the inversion, that it's a herd of elephant. We need to own all of them, and then we will decide. But it's a unique situation to be in. It's like going into the United States in 1800 and you claim Nevada, Colorado, and Utah all together.
I get that, but if you look at some comparables, like if you look at Filo mining, for example, sitting at let's say 3 to 5 billion CAD market cap, and that's kind of a recognized as being the shit in exploration, and it seems to be kind of a limit to where you can get in terms of market cap based off a tremendous discovery. Yeah. So how are you just thinking? Because if you at some point to get to the next level, you will need to actually, in my view at least, crystallize production as well. So
exactly, but to compare to Filo, in a very difficult country, and it's what 4,500 meters above sea level. So it's like, wow, this is like logistics, capex, name it, complicated. There, 1,000 meter. There, the only big disadvantage is in the summer. It's warm. It's because you're in the bottom of the Atlas. It's quite warm, but one of the best jurisdiction in the world. Fantastic mining code, qualified people to build, to run, energy from the grid at 7 cents. You got great advantages. So I really believe that as we develop this, people will give us the benefit of the jurisdiction, the benefit of the grade, the benefit of the team, and so we do want to take it into production. We do, and we don't need a partner. We can do that ourselves, because we can do it in sequence and steps. We can size it. There's many things we can do. Now, if we want a partner, I can give you 4 names that would already do it with us. But we don't need. We have a construction team. We have a great team to run this, to manage this. You've been to site. We have an amazing local team. In Morocco, team is absolutely fantastic. So look. This is that David's party. He needs to take it to the next level and the next level and the next level, and we'll make a decision. But this is not a Boumadine story anymore. It's a Boumadine district story. It's not that only zone. It's all the zones, and it will take this year to figure it out. But I can assure you, just by coming out on a first resource, how many times have you seen that? First resource. 4.2 million gold, 4.1 million gold equivalent, or 352 million silver ounces equivalent on a first pass, first resource, 18 months of drilling, 94,000 meters. Unheard of in our industry. Unheard of.
Yeah. From my point of view as a long-term investor, it doesn't really matter necessarily what the path is, because it's just a perception thing. So you don't necessarily need to rush anything or try to paint up a picture to optimize for capital market, because you have the cash from Zgounder, as you say. So from my point of view, I don't really care. But some investors might prefer to taking some route where you convince institutional money to go in a bit earlier or even more to a larger extent. At the end of the day, if you guys drill for 3-4 years, I think at some point the market will kind of say, okay, this is just tremendous. And I guess we'll see how much value they assign per ounce at Boumadine. Right now, what the analysts, what have they assigned per ounce at average Boumadine?
They haven't. I know Desjardins is coming out soon. They haven't. The 8th Capital, now are looking at Boumadine on main zone, being at 600 million ounces. And that's when they took their target price to $22. They're the only one right now that have put in like a higher value. Most of them are taking the 350 million ounces, and they're not assuming anything bigger. They're just taking facts and working with the facts. So they haven't announced, they haven't put, they're putting 350 million of value. So it's $1 an ounce, let's put it that way, on silver equivalent. And I think it's just the beginning. Others are putting more value, clearly, but I think again we will surprise to the upside in the months and into years to come.
Yeah, I think that much is clear for those who pay attention. But okay, so we could speak more about Boumadine, but I'll reserve another conversation again when you release some more information, 3D inversion and so on. Let's talk about the side quest, Amizmiz, in comparison to Boumadine. I know you wanted to. It's David. You spoke about it a bit when we were on site, and you want to put some meters in there because you think you can define a nice little gold deposit high grade, right?
That's my 2024 wild card in my pocket. It's a small project. It's nothing compared with Boumadine, either in size or Zgounder, but it does have some historical resource. They're not 43-101, but they were in the reports, and what we know from the on him and those things, they were talking about 300,000 ounces at 13 grams per ton gold. And when we went on the field, we saw that there's possibilities of a repetition of those pockets. So it's always a project I like because of the grade. We have some grabs at the surface that goes all the way to 127 grams per ton gold. And in the year and a half that we were there but not working, artisanal miner went and they did find some new pockets of mineralization. So I do believe that we could have 4 to 5, 6 of those smaller sized pockets of very high grade quartz carbonate veins with 13 grams material. So maybe something like a Rocks Gold 2.0 or a Yaramako 2.0, some relatively small, 1.2, 1.6 million ounces, but at grades that are just incredible to work with, and 45 minutes away from Marrakech. Perfect. It could be a very nice upside project. And so we'll go work at it. We'll go map it. We'll have a small drill program to identify some of the potential pockets of mineralization. And we'll take a decision after that towards the end of the year. But it could be a very nice little upside if you want. A little sexy high-grade project.
So you're doing a few thousand meters now just to qualify, and then you will have a decision point if you want to pursue it and actually drill it out.
Exactly. Yeah. Do I ask some more meterage, or we just concentrate ourselves on the next acquisition or the Boumadine or Zgounder? We'll see. Everything is open.
And Benoit, just to ask, and this kind of is true for Tijirit as well, but if you have success in such a way with Amizmiz, you define it to such a resource, is that something you just hold as a real estate in the portfolio then, or because Boumadine will consume you can consume all your focus on Boumadine if you want to, right? There's no real limit to that. So how do you think about these side pieces on the chessboard as well?
We have the same approach there as we have with Tijirit in Mauritania. Is we're going to maximum the value creation one way or another. So it's a nice project, Amizmiz, and I really agree with David. I think it's a Rocks Gold in the making, but Boumadine is so big that we will keep it, but or we do a spin out with in a gold company. I think that Amizmiz would be a fantastic asset for a spin out. We're not there yet. We're just thinking loud. I'm thinking loud, but it's in our portfolio. I don't think it's going to make a big difference. Boumadine is so big, Zgounder, and there, it won't make such a big difference. But in a new gold company focusing on Morocco, and it could be very, very interesting. So we'll see. Look, we own it. It's ours 100%. David likes it. We've always liked it, but we were busy somewhere else. We'll get the work program done. We'll see what we have. but it's a nice asset. And 13 gram underground, especially in Morocco, underground is very efficient. It's a beautiful project.
And then I want to ask Benoit as well, because we spoke about this last time a little bit, and I haven't seen anything yet, but you were speaking about some kind of mining law reform in Morocco to the positive, and also potentially kind of reverting this tax increase due to COVID as well. How are these things coming along? What's the status of that?
So those are different. I mean, the tax rate due to COVID is the Ministry of Finance.
Yep.
That's something else that we're waiting. I mean, we have nothing to do. The whole group of companies are kind of lobbying for that and try to bring it back down to zero where it should be. Regarding the mining code, it's progressing. I think it's going to Parliament this fall to be presented to Parliament, and I think it's very positive. It's just making it more attractive. So more attractive to us, more attractive to others. They would like to see other AYA come into play and spend money and create employment. They would like that.
So touching on that, I mean, what's been happening? I mean, I see some activity of other corporates trying to get in, but nothing, even close to what you guys are doing. Can you tell me which companies are entering and so on, and what's it like?
Smaller companies are entering. We see it. Smaller companies are entering. Companies are in discussion with us, with the others. There's renewed interest. That's for sure. We're going to the Canaccord conference next week on the West Coast, and half of our meetings are with corporates. So, and I'm sure they want to talk about Boumadine. So, this industry is like sheep. They follow the discoveries. David and I have seen it in Burkina when we discovered Mana and Siou, and the whole Houndé Belt became the place to be. So again, it's they're waiting. They're looking at Boumadine. They have to review it. We have many meetings, and but we're in no rush. We like it like that. There's us, Managem, OCP, perfect like this. We like it like that, and it allows us to get the ground that we want and to spend the money that we want, because that the junior market is right now very, very difficult, and that's the reason why they're not rushing into other countries, because they don't have the money even to do the job on their main assets.
Yeah, and then kind of to cap off the conversation here, and both of you can give an answer, I guess. Where would you like to see just a year from now? So this time next year when we speak again, we'll speak before then, I'm sure. But what would you like to achieve then? Kind of crystallize that.
I'd like David to ask for not 120,000 meters, but 240,000 meters.
Done.
That's what I'd like to see. That means the geophysics is paying off. We have many structures to drill, and we're adding not with 7 drills, but we're adding with 14 drills.
Done deal. I fully agree with that.
I think actually that's perfect. Let's just leave it at that. And Zgounder, it's working. It's gonna make money. So that's well, we all know that by now. So that's good. Okay, guys. Well, thank you for your time. I think everyone will appreciate this greatly. I think next time we'll speak, hopefully, I don't know, 3-4 months from now. But we're waiting for the geophysics. I think that's the big next thing. So I'm looking forward to that, and we'll sit down again then.
Thank you so much for your time again. Thank you for inviting us.
Thanks.
It's always a pleasure, and we'll keep you posted.